All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about how Pakistan completely transformed the way it handles something super fundamental: citizenship and passports. This is a story about tackling a mountain of bureaucracy, clearing out insane backlogs, and making a huge digital leap. So let's kick things off with a pretty simple question. What is it that actually defines you as a citizen of a country? The thing that unlocks the whole world for you? Well, for pretty much everyone, it boils down to two things: proof of citizenship and that little book we call a passport. Okay, so who are the people in charge of these incredibly important documents in Pakistan? Let's meet the official gatekeepers. The main player here is the Directorate General of Immigration and Passports, or DGIP for short. Basically, if it has to do with Pakistani citizenship, passports, or visas, these are the folks who handle it. They're the ones running the show. So we know who's in charge. The next logical question is, how do you actually become a citizen of Pakistan in the first place? Well, the rules are really specific, and they're a huge part of the country's identity. It really boils down to three main paths, and they all come from the Pakistan Citizenship Act of 1951. You gotta remember, this act was a huge deal back then for the new nation. So path one is by birth. Pretty straightforward, you're born in Pakistan. Path two is by descent, meaning your parents are Pakistani, but maybe you were born abroad. And the third one, by migration, is a really interesting historical one. It's for people who moved to Pakistan right around the time of partition, even before that 1951 law was on the books. But here's where the story gets interesting. For a long, long time, even if you were a citizen, getting that passport, well, that was a whole other battle. And this really gets to the heart of the problem we're talking about today: the massive, massive challenge of just getting a passport. And then, in early 2025, the DGIP comes out with this really bold statement. On the surface, it sounds great, really optimistic. But to get why this was such a big deal, you have to understand the absolute giant of a problem they were trying to solve. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, the delays are over, but how big was the mountain they actually had to climb? You're not going to believe this number. It's just staggering. Okay, get this, 3.5 million, a backlog of 3.5 million passports. Just think about that for a second. That's millions of people waiting for jobs, for family visits, for everything. But here's the truly wild part. They cleared that entire backlog in just 2.5 months. That's not just fast, that's an absolutely incredible turnaround. So the obvious question is, how in the world did they pull that off? The answer wasn't just throwing more people at the problem. Nope, it was about working smarter. This was, and I'm not exaggerating, a total digital revolution for them. They rolled out a whole bunch of modern services. We're talking e-passports with better security all across the country. We're talking online passport renewals so you don't even have to leave your house. They set up 24/7 service centers in big cities like Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi. They expanded their fast-track service to way more cities. And yeah, there's even an app now to pay your fees online. The whole shebang. And this slide just says it all, right? It really shows you the night and day difference. Before, you had these endless lines, you could only go during certain hours, and it was all paper, paper, paper. Now, you can apply from home, the centers are working around the clock, and everything is digital, from payments to tracking. This whole digital shift has been a massive game changer for so many people, but especially for Pakistanis living abroad. I mean, these folks are a huge part of the economy. Now they can do almost everything online: get a brand new passport for their newborn baby, replace one that's lost or damaged, even update their info, all without having to fly back home. That is huge. Okay, but with all this newfound convenience, there's also a really important flip side we need to talk about. A passport isn't just some flimsy travel booklet. It is a serious, secure government document, and the law takes that very, very seriously. And when you look at the law, the Passport Act of 1974, it's crystal clear. One of the biggest no-nos is trying to forge, alter, or mess with a passport in any way. And the penalty for doing that? Well, it's not a slap on the wrist. We're talking about the possibility of up to 3 years in prison, a big fine, or even both. Here's another big one the law comes down hard on: trying to have more than one passport for yourself. Doesn't matter if it's in the same name or a different one, it's a serious offense. And the penalty for that one? Yep, you guessed it. Exactly the same. Up to 3 years in prison, a fine, or both. The message from the law is super consistent. The integrity of your passport is a really big deal for both national security and your own identity. So all of this really brings us to a final, bigger question. What Pakistan has done here is a fantastic example of using technology to make public services way better and more convenient. But it also makes you think, right? In this age where technology is making everything easier and faster, how do we make sure that the things that truly matter, like our official documents, our very identities, are kept safe and secure?